The wind howled like a forgotten ghost across the glassy surface of Willow Lake, carrying with it the sharp scent of impending rain that promised to wash away the sins of the day. In that moment of eerie stillness, old Elias Hawthorne, his frail hands trembling on his cane, locked eyes with the wide-eyed boy who had wandered too close to the water's edge. "Toss a pebble for me, lad," Elias whispered, his voice cracking like dry leaves underfoot, "for the wishes we dare not speak aloud, and the regrets that drown us all." The boy, no more than 8, with freckles dotting his nose like stars in a summer sky, paused mid-stride. His name was Tommy, though Elias didn't know that yet. Tommy had been skipping stones all afternoon, his small arm whipping back and forth in rhythmic defiance of gravity, each skip echoing like laughter across the lake. But now, faced with this stranger whose eyes held the depth of the water itself, he felt a pull, an invisible thread tugging at his curiosity and fear in equal measure. Elias sat on the weathered bench that had been his silent companion for decades, its wood warped by countless seasons. His coat, threadbare at the elbows, hung loosely on his shrunken frame, a relic from a time when he stood tall and unyielding. The lake before him was more than a body of water. It was a mirror to his soul, reflecting back the fragments of a life pieced together with joy and shattered by loss. He watched Tommy hesitate, the pebble clutched in his tiny fist, and a surge of emotion welled up in Elias's chest. Hope, perhaps, or desperation disguised as whimsy. "Why me?" Tommy asked, his voice small but steady, the innocence of youth cutting through the tension like a beam of light. Elias smiled faintly, the lines around his mouth deepening into canyons of memory. "Because, child, sometimes the smallest hands can stir the greatest ripples. And I've got a story in these old bones that needs stirring up before the storm hits." As Tommy drew back his arm and let the pebble fly, it arced gracefully through the air, slicing into the water with a soft plop. One skip, 2, 3 each bounce, sending concentric circles outward, disturbing the lake's tranquility. Elias leaned forward, his breath catching as if witnessing a miracle. The boy turned to him, grinning triumphantly, unaware that this simple act had unlocked a floodgate in the old man's heart. It began with Elias's youth, a tale he spun with the cadence of a storyteller long silenced. Born in the shadow of the Great Depression, Elias had grown up on the banks of this very lake, in a modest cabin where his father taught him to fish and his mother sang lullabies that chased away the hunger pangs. "Life was hard back then," Elias said, his eyes misting over, "but the lake gave us solace. It was our secret keeper, holding on to dreams we tossed in like pebbles." Tommy sat beside him now, legs dangling off the bench, entranced. The old man described how, as a young man, he fell in love with a girl named Clara, whose laughter rippled like the water on a breezy day. They met at a lakeside picnic, her red dress fluttering like a flag of surrender to his heart. "She asked me to toss a pebble for our future," Elias recounted, his voice thickening with emotion. "I did, and it skipped 7 times 7, the number of perfection. We married that fall, built a life together. But life, as Elias explained with a heavy sigh, has a way of turning calm waters turbulent. War came calling, dragging him across oceans to fields of mud and blood. He returned changed, haunted by ghosts that no pebble could banish. Clara waited, her love a steady anchor, but the years chipped away at their happiness. Children came and went, 2 sons who grew into men of their own, scattering like leaves in the wind. As the afternoon sun dipped lower, casting golden hues over the lake, Elias's story deepened. He spoke of the day Clara fell ill, her body betraying her like a false friend. "Cancer," he whispered, the word hanging in the air like smoke. Tommy's eyes widened. He knew the term from his grandmother's passing last year, a wound still fresh in his young heart. Elias described the endless hospital visits, the way Clara's hand grew colder in his, until one evening by this same lake, she made him promise to keep tossing pebbles for hope, for remembrance. She said, "Elias, don't let the ripples stop. Keep them going for us." His voice broke then, and Tommy reached out, placing his small hand on the old man's arm. It was a gesture so pure, so unbidden, that Elias felt a tear escape, tracing a path down his cheek. The boy didn't pull away. Instead, he picked up another pebble and handed it to Elias. "Your turn." Tommy said softly. Elias took it, his fingers brushing the smooth stone as if it were a talisman. With a deep breath, he tossed it, watching it skip 4 times before sinking. For Clara, he murmured. The act loosened something inside him, and he continued his tale, weaving in the loneliness that followed her death. The cabin felt empty, the lake mocking with its eternal calm. His sons visited sporadically, their lives consumed by cities and careers, leaving Elias to wander the shores alone. Yet, in this solitude, he found a quiet wisdom. The lake teaches you, he told Tommy, that every ripple starts small but touches everything. Your actions, no matter how tiny, change the world. Tommy nodded, absorbing the words like a sponge. As rain began to patter softly on the leaves overhead, Elias felt a warmth spread through hema connection forged in shared vulnerability. But the story wasn't done. Elias spoke of a secret he'd buried deep. During the war, he'd lost a brother, Samuel, whose body never returned home. I tossed a pebble for him every year on his birthday, Elias confessed, his voice laced with regret. But I never told anyone how much it weighed on me, how I blamed myself for not being there. Tommy listened, his own eyes glistening now, as the old man's pain became a bridge between generations. As the rain intensified, they sought shelter under a nearby oak, its branches a makeshift umbrella. Elias pulled out a faded photograph from his pocket, him and Clara, young and radiant by the lake. This is what the pebbles are for, he said. To remember, to forgive, to keep loving even when it hurts. Tommy shared his own story then, haltingly at first. His parents fought often, voices raised like storm winds, leaving him to escape to the lake for peace. I tossed pebbles to make wishes, he admitted. Like, for them to stop yelling. Elias's heart ached for the boy, seeing echoes of his own childhood struggles. In that moment, under the dripping tree, a bond formed. Mentor and protege, stranger turned confidant. Elias realized that asking Tommy to toss the pebble wasn't just for his own catharsis. It was to pass on the ritual, to ensure the ripples continued. As the storm subsided, leaving the air fresh and renewed, Elias stood, leaning on his cane. Come back tomorrow, lad. There's more to tell. Tommy nodded eagerly, dashing off with a wave, his small figure disappearing down the path. Elias watched him go, a smile creasing his face for the first time in months. The lake shimmered anew, as if approving of this unexpected encounter. Little did he know, this was only the beginning of a journey that would heal old wounds and spark new hopes. That night, Elias sat by his cabin window, the lake a dark canvas outside. Memories flooded him: Clara's touch, Samuel's laughter, the war's horrors. But now, intertwined was Tommy's innocent face, a beacon in his twilight years. He whispered a prayer of thanks, tossing an imaginary pebble into the void. The next morning dawned crisp, the lake mirroring a cloudless sky. Elias arrived early, bench dew-kissed, his heart lighter. Tommy appeared soon after, skipping stones with renewed vigor. Ready for more? Elias asked, and the boy beamed. They delved deeper into Elias's past. He recounted his post-war life, starting a small boat repair business by the lake. It was my way of mending what was broken, he said. Not just wood, but souls. Customers came with stories of their own, turning the shop into a confessional of sorts. One man, a veteran like him, shared nightmares that mirrored Elias's, forging a friendship that lasted years. Tommy listened raptly, tossing pebbles intermittently, each skip punctuating the narrative. As the sun climbed, Elias introduced a twist from his tale, a hidden letter from Clara, discovered after her death, revealing she'd known about his war guilt and forgiven him long ago. She wrote, "Toss a pebble for peace, my love. You've carried enough." Reading it aloud, Elias's voice trembled, the words a balm to his scarred heart. The boy's reaction was profound. He hugged Elias impulsively, a child's embrace full of unfiltered empathy. "You're not alone anymore," Tommy said, and Elias felt years of isolation melt away. Their conversations evolved, touching on life's profundities. Elias taught Tommy about resilience, how the lake endured floods and droughts yet remained. "We're like that," he said. "We bend, but we don't break." Tommy, in turn, brought youthful optimism, reminding Elias that joy could still be found in simple acts. As days blurred into weeks, a routine formed. Mornings by the lake, stories exchanged like treasures. Elias's health improved, subtly his step surer, his laughter more frequent. Tommy's home life, though unchanged, felt less burdensome with this outlet. One afternoon, a surprise visitor appeared. Tommy's mother, Sarah, drawn by her son's tales of the wise old man. She approached hesitantly, a woman in her 30s with tired eyes and a guarded smile. "Thank you for being kind to him," she said, sitting on the bench's edge. Elias nodded, sensing her burdens. As they talked, Sarah opened up about her struggles of failing marriage, financial woes, the weight of single-handedly raising Tommy. Elias listened without judgment, sharing snippets of his own trials. "The lake has seen it all," he said. "Toss a pebble for strength." Sarah did, her throw tentative but true, skipping twice. It was a small act, but it sparked something in her, a glimmer of hope. From then on, she joined occasionally, turning their duo into a trio of healing. This unexpected addition shifted the dynamic, emphasizing community's power. Elias saw in Sarah echoes of Clara's resilience, in Tommy the son he wished he'd been closer to. Together, they tossed pebbles for various reasons: for healing, for forgiveness, for new beginnings. As summer waned, Elias felt a profound gratitude. The child he'd asked to toss a pebble had, unwittingly, tossed one back into his life, creating ripples of connection that banished his loneliness. Yet, challenges loomed. Elias's health faltered one day, a sharp pain in his chest forcing him to sit abruptly. Tommy noticed, fear etching his face. "Are you okay?" he asked, voice quivering. Elias reassured him, but the incident prompted deeper reflections. He spoke of mortality, how the lake would outlast them all, but legacies lived on in stories shared. "When I'm gone, keep tossing pebbles, lad. For me, for Clara, for everyone who's touched your heart." Tommy's eyes filled with tears, but he nodded resolutely. "I promise." Their bond strengthened through vulnerability, a testament to human connection's fragility and beauty. Elias realized that in helping Tommy, he'd healed himself, turning regret into redemption. As autumn leaves began to fall, coloring the lake in fiery hues, Elias looked forward to each day with renewed purpose. The pebbles continued to skip, each one a whisper of hope in a world too often silent. The crisp autumn air carried the scent of decaying leaves, mingling with the earthy aroma of the lake as Elias and Tommy resumed their ritual. Sarah joined more frequently now, her presence a soothing addition that wove new threads into their tapestry of tales. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon in a blaze of orange and pink, Elias revealed another layer of his pasta twist that caught even him off guard in the retelling. "I once saved a life here," Elias began, his voice steady but laced with emotion. Tommy and Sarah leaned in, the lake's gentle lapping the only accompaniment. "It was during a fierce storm in '72, when the waters swelled like an angry beast. A young couple's boat capsized, their cries lost in the wind. Elias, then in his 50s and stronger, rowed out against the gale, pulling the woman aboard first, then the man. They were newlyweds," he said, "much like Clara and me once." The rescue made local news, but Elias shunned the spotlight, content with the quiet gratitude in their eyes. What he hadn't shared before was the aftermath. The man, named Robert, became a lifelong friend, visiting annually to toss pebbles in thanks. Robert passed last year, leaving Elias a letter echoing Clara's words: forgiveness, remembrance. Sarah's eyes softened. "You've touched so many lives," she murmured. Tommy, inspired, tossed a pebble for heroes unsung, its skips echoing like applause. This revelation shifted their perspectives, highlighting Elias's unsung heroism. It emphasized that quiet acts of kindness create enduring ripples, a value Elias instilled with every story. As winter approached, challenges tested their bond. Sarah's husband left, plunging her into despair. Tommy withdrew, his pebble tosses listless. Elias, sensing the storm, invited them to his cabin for warmth and words. Inside, by a crackling fire, Elias shared his darkest hour the night after Clara's funeral, when despair nearly claimed him. "I stood by the lake, ready to end it," he confessed, voice raw. "But a pebble in my pocket reminded me of her wish. I tossed it instead, choosing life." Sarah wept, her pain mirroring his past. "How do you keep going?" she asked. Elias placed a hand on hers. One ripple at a time. Toss for tomorrow. They did, collectively, forging resilience from shared sorrow. Tommy, witnessing this, found his voice again, supporting his mother with hugs and hope. Spring bloomed anew, the lake thawing like frozen hearts. Elias's stories evolved, incorporating Sarah and Tommy's experiences. He spoke of second chances, how the lake renewed itself seasonally, urging them to do the same. One day, an unexpected visitor arrived. Elias's estranged son, Michael, drawn by a letter from Sarah about his father's fading health. Michael, a busy executive, appeared at the bench, guilt etched on his face. "Dad," he said, voice breaking. Elias's eyes widened in shock, then joy. This twist of family reunion sparked by their lakeside circle added layers of emotion. Michael listened to the tales, tossing his first pebble in years for reconciliation. The group expanded, mending old rifts. Elias saw his legacy unfold, pebbles symbolizing bridges between past and present. Through it all, the lake remained a constant, witnessing transformations. Elias felt fulfilled, his twilight years illuminated by connections he'd never anticipated. As summer returned, their gatherings became community events, others drawn by whispers of the Pebble Man. Elias's wisdom spread, touching more lives. Yet, he knew time was finite. One quiet evening, he gathered them close. "When I'm gone, keep the ripples going. For love, for loss, for life." They promised, tears mingling with smiles. The pebbles skipped on, eternal echoes of humanity's depth. With the warmth of summer enveloping Willow Lake once more, Elias's gatherings grew into something profound, a haven for the weary, where pebbles became vessels for unspoken dreams. Michael integrated seamlessly, his corporate armor shedding as he reconnected with his father. One afternoon, amid laughter and shared lunches, Elias introduced a poignant chapter from his life, one laced with unexpected regret and redemption. "During the war," Elias began, his voice a gravelly whisper, "I made a choice that haunted me." Tommy, Sarah, and Michael listened intently as he described a battlefield decision, sparing an enemy soldier, only to learn later the man had saved Elias's platoon from ambush. The soldier, a German named Hans, survived and wrote years later, forging a pen-pal friendship that crossed oceans. This twist revealed Elias's hidden correspondence, letters tucked away in his cabin. "He tossed pebbles into his own river for peace," Elias said, producing a faded envelope. Hans had passed, but his final words urged Elias to forgive himself. Michael's eyes misted. He'd harbored his own guilt over neglecting his father. "You've taught us all," he said, tossing a pebble for absolution. The revelation deepened their empathy, underscoring forgiveness's power. Sarah, empowered, pursued divorce proceedings with newfound strength, supported by the group. As fall painted the landscape in reds and golds, Elias's health declined subtly, a cough here, fatigue there. Yet, he persisted, his stories a lifeline. Tommy, now 9, took initiative, collecting pebbles for others, becoming a mini-mentor. One crisp day, a new face appeared. Lila, a teenage runaway seeking solace by the lake. Drawn by Tommy's innocent invitation, she joined hesitantly. Her story tumbled out abuse, escape, despair. Elias listened, then shared his depression-era hardships. "The lake doesn't judge," he said. "Toss a pebble for a fresh start." Lila did, her throw strong, skipping 5 times. This auxiliary character brought fresh perspective, highlighting youth's vulnerabilities and the elders' role in guidance. She stayed, finding temporary refuge with Sarah, adding vibrancy to their circle. Winter's chill tested them again. Elias fell ill, pneumonia gripping his lungs. Hospitalized, he yearned for the lake. The group visited daily, smuggling pebbles to toss in his room, imagining ripples on water. In delirium, Elias murmured of Clara, Samuel, Hans' ghosts reconciled. Recovering slowly, he returned to the bench, weaker but wiser. "Illness reminds us life's fleeting," he told them. "Cherish every skip." Spring's renewal mirrored Elias's rebound. Lila flourished, enrolling in school with Michael's help. Tommy excelled, his confidence blooming. Elias's tales now focused on legacy, how one act inspires chains of kindness. He wrote a journal, chronicling their stories, entrusting it to Tommy. As another summer peaked, Elias sensed his time waning. Gathering them one golden evening, he spoke with quiet intensity. The pebble you tossed that first day, Tommy, started this. It's shown me life's beauty in connections. They tossed pebbles together, for gratitude, each skip a heartbeat of love. Elias passed peacefully that night, by his window overlooking the lake. The group mourned, but honored him with a memorial, pebbles tossed en masse, ripples merging into a symphony. His legacy endured. Sarah found love again. Michael relocated closer. Tommy grew into a storyteller. Lila pursued dreams. The bench became a landmark, inscribed with his words. Years later, an adult Tommy returned with his child, tossing a pebble. "For the old man who taught me to make ripples," he said. The lake whispered on, eternal guardian of human tales. In the years following Elias's passing, Willow Lake transformed into a symbol of quiet reflection, drawing souls seeking the solace he once offered. Tommy, now a young man in his 20s, carried the torch, visiting the bench to toss pebbles and share stories with passers-by. One fateful day, an unexpected letter arrived, unearthing a final twist from Elias's past that reshaped everything. The envelope, postmarked from Germany, contained a note from Hans's granddaughter, Greta. She discovered Elias's letters among her grandfather's belongings and, moved by their bond, traveled to the lake. Meeting Tommy, she revealed Hans had visited secretly years ago, watching Elias from afar, too ashamed to approach after the war. This revelation stunned the group. Sarah, Michael, Lila, and Tommy reconvened, piecing together Elias's unspoken longing for closure. Greta shared photos, Hans by his river, pebble in hand, mirroring Elias's ritual. They were brothers in spirit, she said, tossing one for both. The twist infused fresh emotion, emphasizing reconciliation's timeless reach. It prompted Michael to fund a lakeside plaque, "Toss a Pebble for Hope Elias Hawthorne." As seasons cycled, the circle expanded. Tommy married, his wife embracing the tradition. Their daughter, named Clara, tossed her first pebble at 5, giggles echoing like her great-grandmother's laughter. Sarah, remarried happily, volunteered at a shelter, teaching pebble tossing as therapy. Lila, a counselor now, incorporated it into sessions, healing others as she'd been healed. Michael, retired, wrote a book on Elias's life, sales benefiting lake preservation. The narrative spread, inspiring global rituals, pebbles tossed in oceans, rivers, ponds for personal catharsis. One winter, a crisis struck. Developers eyed the lake for condos. The group rallied, petitions and protests fueled by Elias's memory. Tommy spoke at hearings, voice passionate. "This lake holds ripples of lives, don't drown them." Victory came, the area designated a park. They celebrated with a mass tossing, ripples converging in unity. Decades on, an elderly Tommy sat on the bench, his grandchild asking, "Why toss pebbles, Grandpa?" Smiling, Tommy recounted Elias's tale, the elderly man by the lake who asked a child to toss a pebble for wishes, regrets, love. "It starts small," he said, "but changes everything." The child tossed one, skips dancing across water, perpetuating the cycle. In this way, Elias's spirit lived eternal, a testament to human connection's enduring power. The lake, ever patient, cradled their stories, whispering of kinsmanship across time. As the sun set on Tommy's life, he knew peace, his final pebble tossed for all who'd touched him. The end came gently, but the ripples? They went on forever,